Welcome to NetWitness 12.3 New Features Training. In this video, we will discuss the Investigate Events timeline and some of the improvements that has been made to it. As you can see in the demo, there is an executed search, and the timeline appears. Previously it was static, there wasn't anything to do with it. You could hover over it, and see the event count for each bar, but that was all you can do. And so, some of the improvements made is that now it's more interactive. What you're going to do is, as you can see over here, there's this down arrow. So you click on that, and that brings up what we're going to call the expanded timeline. Just for reference, this up top is the mini timeline, and down below is the expanded timeline. Because there's a distinction between the two when it comes to interactivity. So the mini timeline up top is still not interactive. It's mostly for information. What you can do with the timeline down below is there is an added interactivity, like zooming in, panning, and the ability to select a time range for your query with the expanded timeline. Let's go over some of those right now. To zoom, you hover your mouse over the expand timeline, and you can use your scroll wheel on the mouse, and as you scroll you can zoom in onto a time range. You can see the scales change accordingly as you zoom in, and of course, this is all dependent on how much data you have. To do a panning, you have to have your mouse over one of the bars, and click and drag in one direction. And you can see the panning of the timeline. Now, if you notice up in the mini timeline, there is a little focus window, up here. And this shows you, in this not grayed out section is what you can see down below, in the expanded timeline. These areas that are grayed off to the side and they're still there, but they're off the edge of the screen, where you can't see, so this is there to help provide some context of where you are when you zoomed in, if it's needed. So you can click on this, and drag it over. You can do that to get all the way over to the starting time range, or you can just zoom all the way out, zoom in over here. It's pretty quick, so it's probably a sort of the interaction that you can use. This concludes the panning and zooming part. Let's take a look on this text up here. It says 38,197 total events for the selected type range. Now, if you don't make a selection, the entire time range is selected by default. And so, that means all of this is the entire time range. If you need to make a selection, how do you do that? If you click and drag, it will not work. You have to do it when you see the little crosshairs. So you have to do it when you're not hovering over the bar. So you just click and drag. And now, I've got this selection. What you'll have noticed is that the time range up here has changed to match the bounds of this selection, and it also changed what we have in here. So you can see in the selection, there's 3,698 events selected. This time range can be adjusted. As you can see, there is the little up and down, left and right kind of cursor. So if you click here, and move around, you can change where exactly this timing selection is. If you want to adjust the start and stop dates, you just click on one of the ends. To adjust that, you can click and move to adjust this side. If you were to execute this query, then what you will get is the 3,000 events that will show up down here, in the table down below. One of the other things that is added is this button right here. This is a reset button, so what this will do is, when you click it, it will remove a selection. It will zoom all the way out to the original query view, and it will adjust the timeline here at the time range back to its original value. And if you hadn't made any other changes besides adjusting the time range, then the query button itself will also disable, because you're going back to your original query. So here you can click this. Another item added is this timeline information. If you click on this, you can just get some information about the query. You can see that we're using a UTC time zone. The x-axis is based on collection time. The y-axis is based on event count and calculated duration. So you can go through it, you can try and figure it out, but this is sort of a shortcut. This will let you know that each one of these bars is a minute. So it's just a little bit of information to help you out. Another item added is these settings. As of now, the only thing that you can change is the y-axis unit. So you can either do count, which is the default, and this shows you the total number of events, or you can choose file size. If you click on this, and you apply the settings, it has to issue a new query, so that's why you will see the timeline go away. Right now, what you are looking at is the size of the events, the file size of the events, and so you can see there's some big spikes here, and some little spikes. Lastly, there are some tooltip updates that has been done. At this moment, you can see what we've done is that when we're hovering over one of these bars, we color it red. That helps to point out that this tooltip is related to this bar. All the information that is inside the tooltip is the same as it was before. It's just formatted a little bit differently to give it a little bit nicer look. Thank you.